Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how I made this new sort of set piece for the field scene in this game and added the particle effects to the scene. So it's not really finished, it's kind of a work in progress, but I think this is a good place to start and gives me something to work with as I sort of tweak all the stuff that you can see. So let's take a look at how I did this and let's get started. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is create a new scene here. Use a static body. Let's call it alter and save it. Let's add our texture. And there we go. We can at least test it anyway, so I'm going to add it to our Y sort here in the field. Just to make sure that works. Put it somewhere in the center. Good, and let's see if it works. We see the altar, and we're in front, and we're behind it. Alright, next up I want to add my collisions to the altar. So, call it a static body, so I'm going to actually do a collision polygon 2D, so I can draw it myself. And come up here. There we go. Got our collision shape. Save that. Turn that off so we don't have to look at that. And then let's test that out and see whether we collide. There we go. And we have collisions. Okay. So we can walk around and it kind of looks like players behind it. I could probably put that a bit lower. Let's do that actually. Okay. Save that and test it again. There we go, colliding, and there we go. I think that looks a little bit better. But alright, so that works. So let's build the next part of it. I'm gonna add another sprite here. And to that, let's see, butterfly pillar. And we'll make sure this works before I go ahead and add the firefly one, but I'll put that right there, I think. So here we go. And we're behind it. All right, cool. You know, I think there's shortcuts for all these things I'm doing. Like you can just drag PNGs directly into the screen and then it will create a sprite, but for some reason I never think of that. We have our firefly version here. Go back to scene and then we'll move that to right there. So the idea is when you catch a bunch of butterflies, you'll put the jar of butterflies here. When you catch a bunch of fireflies, you'll put the jar of fireflies right there, and then it will activate something in the middle. So it looks pretty okay. You know what? Okay, I'm gonna actually do the shortcut thing. Player shadow, I think. And that will be behind everything. And I'm gonna make it a lot bigger. And we can adjust the opacity of that if it looks kind of weird. Let's see. That looks a little better. I think I will adjust the opacity of that. And I think that looks fine. The next thing I want to do is refill this space here. So we can just grab things that are already placed, and I want to put some grass right behind there so it kind of looks like it's more in the world. So I don't want to put anything directly behind there because once the jar is there it'll look a little bit weird, so I kind of want to offset things a little bit. All right, there we go. So we have our stone altar in the middle of the field. Now let's start adding some effects. So they're not going to be active all the time. I just want to see what they look like, and then I'll add some code later. So for the effects, I'm going to create a sort of particle spiral. And to do that, I'm going to add a path 2D and then have the particle emitter following the path. So back here, let's add our Y sort. And I want that because I want the particles that are part of the scene to be Y sorted along with another character that's going to sit in the middle, all contained within this scene. Path 2D. And we'll call this, okay. And to that butterfly path, well, you know what, we'll draw the path first. Okay, so just need to do kind of a similar thing to drawing a polygon. And we'll start creating the path using a polygon, and then after that we'll come back in and make it curved. All right, I think that's fine. So to that, let's add our path follow. Let's create a new scene. 2D is fine. Let's call it butterfly particles. To that, I'm going to add particles 2D. So I'm going to add a texture that I created, the butterfly particle texture, and open that up. Okay, so I'm going to mess with it and be right back. Alright, so here are my particles. Let's take a look at how I got this. This is probably going to change because I'm going to add it to the scene. Once it's moving, I might need to make some tweaks. But underneath amount, I have 20. For time, it's at 3 seconds, and pre-process is at 3 seconds. And that means it doesn't have to start over from the beginning anytime the player comes across its sort of activation sort of space. Under the particle sort of properties under process material, we have gravity, which is negative, which means it's going up. Let's see, we have a little bit of angular velocity, which you can kind of see each one is sort of randomized at a 45-degree angle as it moves upwards. We have a little bit of scale. So it starts off kind of half as big, it reaches its full size sort of in the middle, and then it gets small towards the top as it disappears. So the color is another thing that's important because that's where we get the sort of dark orangish red, the yellow or gold in the middle, and then at the very end it fades all the way out. I'm going to add it to my Y sort. I'm going to instance child scene and call it butterfly particles. And the reason I'm doing that is because if you want your sort of object that's following the path to behave according to the Y sort, you have to use something called a remote transform. And I actually did a tutorial on how to use this in order to achieve a similar effect. If you want whatever is going around the path to sort of be behind something and in front of that thing as it's moving. So in my remote transform, going to assign it to butterfly particles and click OK. So let's actually 75. I think that sort of looks okay. All right, so as I said, I'm probably gonna have to tweak the way these particles look because it depends on how it looks as it's going around, but in any case, the next thing I want to do is actually start the sort of thing going around the path, and to do that I need to add to this butterfly particle path, which is a path 2D. I'm going to attach a script. I want to start moving this path follow 2D. So I want to say follow, and then we'll say plus, call it 100 times delta, and we'll see what that looks like for now. So basically this is getting the position currently at every frame and then resetting the position at a sort of greater distance times the time. So that starts it moving. So let's go back to 2D. Hopefully it's moving, and it is, but doing the wrong thing. Okay, and then I also forgot another thing. Let's fix that. Under drawing, I want to turn off local coordinates. And so what that means is if I move this, the particles will sort of trail behind. And let's go back to the alter. So as it's moving around, it is rotating. I do not want it to rotate, so I'm going to turn that off, and it should always be sort of pointing up. Let's go back to field and try that again. And there we go. That looks a bit better. Okay. I see how I'm going to have to tweak this some more. But you know what? Let's test the Y sort and see if that actually works. Okay, but it looks like the particles are always behind the fox. Let's see if I can fix that. Oh, you know what it is? Okay, I'm going to remove the fox from here. From the field scene and go to the alter scene, and in that Y sort, I'll add the fox back. Okay, so let's check that out and see what that looks like. All right, so it looks like it's in front and it's behind. Oh, I see, but it's doing the weird thing where like all of the particles are behaving according to wherever the sort of emitter is. So now they're all behind, now they're all in front. Okay, that's a little weird, but I can sort of work with that. All right, we'll worry about that later. Let's do some more stuff to those particles. Some glow effect to the particles themselves. And to do that, I'm going to use something called the world environment node. Under world environment, I need to set a new environment, and then for background, in order to affect sort of 2D objects, I need to set it to canvas. That looks okay. Blend mode, we can change that. Additive, oh, that's maybe too much. Although who knows, it could look cool. And that might be a bit much, but I want to see what that looks like. So let's go back to field. See, oh, everything is glowing. That's not good. Let's see if we can fix that. Okay, so it still kind of looks like everything is glowing. I think this might be a little bit better, but I think that's something I'll have to tackle later. For now, I just want to make sure I get this sort of overall effect working in the way that I want to. So I'm gonna leave that like the way it is for now. Anyway, let's go to the field and then we'll see what that looks like. Alright, so it looks kind of glowing, looks like it's coming around. I'm probably going to have to tweak this a bunch, but I think the basic idea is there. What I'm going to do is add basically the exact same thing with the exact same steps, but using another particle for the fireflies and have it going in the opposite direction. So let's do that. Alright, so here are my firefly particles. Let's see what that actually looks like. So we'll go to the field, or rather the alter. Ooh, I like it. So one thing I want to do is, because I don't want them to start at the same place, I'm going to go into the firefly particle sort of path script. So in the ready function, I'm going to set the unit offset of the follow to 0.5. Basically, what that's going to do is start the firefly particles at halfway along the path. And so when they both play at the same speed, they'll sort of be rotating opposite each other. So let's take a look and see if that worked. And it kind of worked, but of course I forgot to turn off the local coordinates thing for the fireflies, so that just looks funny. Let me do that and I'll be right back. And there we go. That looks kind of cool. I think there's definitely some tweaking I need to do and some other things I need to figure out how to do. Like, I don't want all my flowers to be glowing necessarily. But I think in terms of how that looks, I think that's really good for a starting point. And just for one last thing, let's see how it looks at night. Well, you can really see the glow effect being applied to my fireflies, and there are the particles. So it looks like the glow effect isn't as prominent at night, and I think that's because there's no light 2D or sort of white color associated with it that it has to work with. That's just my guess. In any case, I think I can tweak this and use this as a sort of base to work with. But anyway, that's how I'm planning on building this. Hope you all like that. Thanks for sticking with me, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks again.